Okay, it's preparing the live stream. Okay, I believe we are live now. So let me, let's see, Adam, you wanted me to share my screen. Let me just say welcome to our new members meetup here. It's just Adam and myself right now. We don't actually have any new members today. That's okay. Attendance varies, but we're going to go ahead anyway and just record this because I think this is going to be helpful for folks who might just not be available at this time. So Adam wanted me to share my screen to start with, just to show some of our initial kind of getting started resources. So we'll start with that. So for anyone that don't know me, I'm Jeremy Simon, and a longtime volunteer with the community, help a lot with the behind the scenes, kind of maintaining our online infrastructure and stuff like that. And so just dive in here. For folks that are finding their way to e-NABLE for the first time, most likely you found your way to enablingthefuture.org. That's where most of the current, search engine listings are going to point you to. So most people end up finding their way to here first, which is just kind of where we tell people what we're about. There are some buttons here right on the homepage where you can click based on what you're interested in doing, whether you're looking to get a hand or make a hand or, buy kits or whatever it is that you're looking to do. And there's also some opportunities to partner with e-NABLE if you're looking to be a sponsor or things like that. But right up at the top of the page here, there's a get involved button, and that's really the easiest place to go to get started. And that get involved button takes you over to the learn more and get involved page here, which gives you a little bit of an introduction to our online resources, including kind of key pages that you might want to look to. So it introduces the e-NABLE Hub, which is a different website than this, but it's more where Enabling the Future is just kind of an informational website where we share stories and links, but the hub is interactive. It's like a forum where people can talk and share stories and ask questions. So it's a lot more interactive. So there's a link to the hub here, and then there's links to specific pages on the hub that might be particularly helpful for getting started. Rather than going through those, I'm just going to jump over to the hub here so you can see what this is. So when you go over to the hub and you click to go to the main forum, which is up in this top menu bar here, that's where most of the, that's what the kind of the main space where initial discussions happen. That's where you can introduce yourself just by going in and typing something up here and submitting. You can introduce yourself and ask questions, etc. But then the hub is divided into what are called spaces. And this button up here in the upper left corner, there's a drop down here where you can see any spaces that you're a member of, and then you can join spaces that you're not a member of based on what your interests are. And you can do that by going over to the spaces button here in the main toolbar. That's where we have kind of a directory of all the different spaces, and you can see there's quite a lot of different topics that you can browse through. But the one space that everyone will automatically be added to when they join the hub is the new members space. So if you were to search here for new members, you will have this space in your list of spaces automatically. You don't have to join. And so if you go to that space, you'll see a number of good resources to help you get started. Right at the top here, you've got the quick guidance for things that you might want to look at first. You've got the code of conduct, and then a little form to indicate that you've read and understood that. You've got a link to our device catalog where you can start to familiarize yourself with our most popular designs. And then you've got a link to the form where you can submit your first test device to have it reviewed and earn the badge that shows that you know how to make that device. And then you can learn how to scale size devices here. And then you can get registered on e-NABLE Web Central, which is currently sort of the main matching platform that's in discussion as far as what we do moving forward. But right now, we're encouraging people to sign up on e-NABLE Web Central and see if there's cases you can help with there. And then basically jump in here on the forum and you can familiarize yourself with, what is he linking to here? Familiarize yourself with the hub forum. Okay, so this is just linking you to the actual sort of wiki that tells you about the hub and how to use this platform. And then it talks about how you can join a chapter or start your own, linking over to the chapters page. There's also a video here, which was a previous orientation that we did. And I think this was John Schull that led this one, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a video here where it kind of walks you through all of these same resources and how to get started. And then there's a link to the more detailed, what we call the launch pad here, And this breaks it out by sort of interest type. So information that everyone needs, how to use the hub, information about governance, information about legal and funding related, and then fundraising. And then by volunteer type. So if you're looking to be a maker, you can click here. If you're looking to be a chapter, you can click here. If you're looking to receive a device for yourself, if you're a school group, if you're a coordinator looking to just kind of help on the back end, coordinating events and that sort of thing. If you're looking to help design new devices or make custom devices, there's a place for you here. So there's those all linked to places where you can get more detail about each one of those roles. And the other thing I will point out is going back to the main forum here. So again, I'm just clicking on forum here at the top. One of the areas that you'll see in the sidebar here, aside from the stream, which is where people communicate with one another, you'll see some of the key resources down the side here, one of which is the wiki. And I just want to point out that in that wiki in the main forum, there's quite a few good resources, different wikis about how to get started. The code of conduct is there, information about how to create a new space here in the hub, some safety guidelines, and a pretty detailed overview about how to get started as a volunteer, which goes through some of the same steps that we looked at before, but in a lot more detail. So it'll actually walk you through step by step. First, go to the welcome page, go to the code of conduct, then check out the new members welcome space, then look at the designs, then make your test device. So it's essentially the same steps we looked at before, but broken out into more detail with links to everything that you need to get started here. So this process is a great place. This wiki page here is a good place to dig into the step-by-step of getting started. And then we've got also our community events listed out in the wiki here. So for each month, you'll get a very detailed list of all of the community events happening. So for the month of August, if we go here and look at the published page, you get a nice schedule of events and you can see who the key speakers are. So this is a great way to get plugged in. More and more, our community is sort of moving forward by means of these collaborative meetings and workshops that happen on a recurring basis. So you'll see that we have monthly meetings around different topics, one for the Bionic team, one for chapter leaders, one for education, et cetera, et cetera. So depending on where you're looking to focus or what your areas of interest are, you can jump into any one of those meetings. Feel free to just listen in, be a fly on the wall until you get your feet wet, and then jump in as you feel comfortable. We encourage everyone to get involved wherever they see fit. We like to describe e-NABLE as being a do-ocracy, which means nobody's in charge. Nobody tells anyone what to do. Everyone just kind of decides what they want to do, and you just jump in and start doing it, basically. Very much like what Adam has been doing lately. He's really been taking on some very important roles, like helping us to move forward on some of our outreach efforts and helping to streamline the process for some of our new members, which we're going to be talking about today. And so just like that, if there's an area that you feel like you can contribute, just jump in. Don't wait for anybody to give you permission. And that's how we do things. I think that's a quick overview of our getting started resources. I'm sure I didn't hit on everything, and that's part of our challenge, is trying to make these easier to find, trying to bring together some of the duplication of information that we have throughout the hub. We're really trying to streamline and make it easier for people to find their way, but that's what we have for you right now. So I think I want to turn it over to you, Adam, unless there's anything else you want me to show here.
No, Jeremy, for someone who had this voice done at the last second, you did a phenomenal job.
Okay,
that was great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my name is Adam Jennings. I am going to walk through just a brief introduction about who I am, what I'm trying to do with e-NABLE, and where I could use the help of everyone in the community, but particularly new members who are interested in being more engaged with some outreach efforts, in addition to the actual work of building devices, trying to make sure they're getting into the hands of people who can use them. I think, man, I could use all the help I can get. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Apologies if you watched this morning's town hall or one of the town halls that I spoke at a couple of weeks ago. A lot of the information here is going to be similar, not exactly the same, but let me just start by running through some brief background information. So I'm a physical therapist by training. I completed my degree at the University of Missouri back, well, say how many years ago. I'm getting close to 40, and the further away certain milestones get, the more terrifying that feels.
Mhm.
I worked during my clinical days primarily in the world of neurorehabilitation, which for whatever reason includes amputee rehab under that umbrella. I obtained my amputee specialization in 2015 through the Red Cross, and it has always been a primary interest of mine. I did the bulk of my research in grad school on amputee rehabilitation, primarily focusing on the lower extremity, though my capstone research was centered on upper extremity prosthesis compliance, particularly among children. So right up the alley of what you all are going to be encountering as you deliver devices to these folks.
Adam, I'm sorry, maybe I missed it. Did you
go
say
ahead.
what is ICRC stand for?
Oh, the International Committee of the Red Cross.
Ah, that's okay. Got it.
Yep. So they offer a number of specializations for people in the field. I took their, what was this, like an 8-week certification program for amputee specialization. I thought I knew a lot, but man, it was a pretty great program.
Great.
Pretty exhaustive study. So since leaving the clinical world, I have been primarily working in the corporate system with various healthcare data management firms. I've completed an MBA just this year with a sort of twin emphases of healthcare data management and organizational development. Most of what I've been doing these days has been centered around process improvement, but I have spent a fair amount of time working with these electronic health records companies in developing their rehab solutions, specifically their software systems for physical therapists. So my history with e-NABLE goes back to 2017. That's when I initially reached out. The company that I worked for at the time had a fantastic makerspace on campus, and I got approval for and started using that and printed out most of the components for a hand. The devices there were Ultimakers, got to use some AutoCAD programs, and as a PT and a person with a background in biology, I really didn't have much of an engineering background. Fortunately, my colleagues, the other employees there, were very willing to lend their expertise, and it quickly became a sort of all-consuming hobby for a while. My initial thought was that e-NABLE could in some way partner with private companies and try to package activities for corporate team building events that would, for any tech company that has an on-site makerspace, to in some way have a division of labor to have certain groups print the components and then other groups assemble them and try to make that more of like a volunteer team building thing that would ultimately benefit people on the back end. Not something that ever came to fruition. My employer didn't really have a lot of interest in that at the time, but it's something that I like to revisit now that I'm involved with e-NABLE in a more official capacity, to see if that's something that maybe down the line could be, we could approach other private institutions with. What I'm working on these days, though, and you'll note in my very first slide, I've got a little question mark after Director of Outreach. I have no idea if that's if I actually have a title
Sounds good to
with
me,
the
yeah.
organization or not. Yeah, I figured
Yeah.
that got the job done. But I figured there at least needs to be some raising of hands before I start slapping that on my old LinkedIn profile.
I'll just say it certainly
But
seems appropriate from what I've seen so far of activity.
well, I appreciate that. But what I'm working on right now, I've got a little directory for just high-level information about what I'm trying to work on. I was telling Jeremy earlier today that I have a problem with having ideas at like 11 p.m. and then writing them down, and then all of a sudden I look at my notebook and I've got way too many ideas to follow. So this list may be whittled down. Some of these things, if they interest the community, could get assigned to other folks. But for the time being, these are the things that I'm primarily interested in. The big one is the Afghanistan initiative. If you are really interested in connecting our makers to recipients. I could really use some eyes and some brains working on this. We've got folks in Kabul, specifically the director of the only functioning orthopedic surgery center there. I believe he's also the director of the emergency medicine center at the same facility. I've been put in touch with him. He and I have had a number of conversations over the internet about how we can potentially leverage this community's energy and resources to supply prosthetic devices to victims of the conflict in Afghanistan, of which there are hundreds or thousands. We have a real opportunity to reach out and try to right some of the wrongs that have been, inflicted on these people's lives. People who really had nothing to do with the conflict, but are just, casualties of the ongoing issues. So if you want more information on that, please reach out to me through the hub, or you can follow this link on the Afghanistan initiative. Really, I think that the energy and the effort is there. We just need to make sure that we've got the framework in place to start tracking cases. I'm going to, I hope, in the next couple of weeks here, start getting pictures and measurements and the information that we need about what kind of devices are needed. I believe that's going to be coming in a pretty steady stream. Once those start coming in, we will need chapters to, raise their hands and say, yep, we're ready to print. My understanding is that's where the energy is, that people are, kind of champing at the bit to try to jump onto these. But if the real issue is once they're printed, we've got to actually figure out the logistics to get them shipped. So we're gonna be on hold until we can figure out that one vital piece. I will say, importantly, the director of the medical center there in Kabul let me know that he mentioned e-NABLE in the work that we're trying to do to the Afghanistan National Health Minister in a call this week, and that he's aware of what we're trying to do and is very excited and wants to help facilitate that however possible. I think the energy is there and the interest is there, and now we just need to figure out how to make it happen. Please do reach out to me or head over to that space in the hub to get more information. There are a number of other areas. I've created another space which I've called the Rehabilitation Healthcare Roundtable. My primary interest there, two interests. One is to try to set up a regular monthly slate of speakers to present healthcare and basic anatomy and physiology information to this community. I know that we primarily have engineering types, many of whom may not really have had a great deal of life science education, which is not a failing, but I think that given where we are working at the interplay of tech and the human body, I think it could be really helpful to have people coming in to explain, this is how wounds happen, this is what we have to protect for, this is how healing happens, to try to increase understanding for how these devices will be fitting into people's lives. The other piece, the second part, is I want to make sure that e-NABLE is slotting well and comfortably, at least in the US side. I know that there's a lot of consideration globally to take into account for also. But training my focus more domestically, I want to make sure that we're not ruffling too many feathers and that we have buy-in from the existing O&P community and physical therapists and occupational therapists and doctors who, anyone who is aware of e-NABLE, I want to make sure that they see us as a good thing and not as, a quote unquote disruptor of the industry. I don't think that would really be beneficial in the long term for getting the support of those groups whose help we may very well need down the line. Beyond that, I'm interested in drawing closer ties to other nonprofit organizations, groups like the Wounded Warrior Project in the United States, a group like the International Campaign to Ban Landmines. I think their mission to eliminate active munitions in current and past war zones is really hand in hand with, well, gosh, I need to stop saying hand in hand. It sounds too punny. But it's really in concert with our efforts to try to supply for these individuals, many of whom have lost limbs due to landmines and live munitions. So all good things to consider about how we can maybe align fundraising efforts and visibility campaigns to try to get the ball rolling on more of our own initiatives. We can talk about those last two bullet points really quickly. Makerspace and rehab partnerships, that's one of my active thoughts in the outreach and advancement page. Feel free to reach out to me with questions there. And man, I don't know if this would fall under one of the existing leaders' spheres of influence, Jeremy, but it occurred to me that we've got I saw a number of comments in the hub this week about young people who are new to e-NABLE introducing themselves. And I thought it might be good to have somebody whose job is to sort of coordinate these youth chapters to see if we can, get them working in concert or get them like specialized, dedicated resources to make sure they're able to do what they want to do. They may need a little bit more help than like a university group.
I think that's a great idea. And if I could just mention one other thing, in the midst of that, you talked a little bit about fundraising. And I just want to point out that the timing of what you're working on is very good, because we had an individual that had kind of taken the lead on fundraising for us in the past. He has since retired from the community. And, we didn't worry about it because we were sitting pretty with our e-NABLE fund. That is now down to about 30K. We typically in the past, once it gets down to about 25K is where we try to ramp back up our fundraising efforts to try to refresh that. So the timing is good. We are just getting into the range where we're going to want to start thinking about bringing some more funding into that fund for the community. I know we have some outstanding multi-year commitments, so that I just don't know the details of where those stand or what we have on the horizon, but just it's good that you're thinking in these directions.
Well, and I think we also, as we come up, as you mentioned, as we come up on our 10-year anniversary, I think it might be a good time to get heads together and say, where do we want this to be going in the decades ahead, and should our fundraising goals
that's right,
maybe be set a little
and
bit higher.
And we talked a little bit about this in an earlier meeting of putting together a sort of a highlights reel as a 10-year celebration, some kind of a video montage. I think if we do that, that itself could become a valuable tool for fundraising to help kind of inspire people about the great work we've done.
I agree. That's excellent. Just some final things, more from a process side, less from an outreach side. I mentioned that I work primarily in process improvement these days. I know that we're working with Deloitte UK on improving our technology and our website and trying to make things a little bit more accessible. My 2 cents, what I'd like to throw into that is seeing how we can better utilize lessons learned, documentation, process descriptions from individual chapters to make them more immediately visible to everyone in the community. So for example, Brazil, Jeremy, you brought up, has a great system in place for interacting with their healthcare community when devices are being delivered, making those guidelines and lessons that they've sort of painstakingly put together over time visible to everyone, so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. Could go a long way to getting these objectives knocked out more quickly. I'd really like to make sure that we've got consistency in some form of pre-flight checklists for devices, making sure that devices and recipients have some kind of tagging or metadata or ID system in place, whatever makes sense, but just a way to say, we've got this person. Just sort of the use case that came to mind was 2 years from now, somebody reaches out to e-NABLE and says, hey, this person made this hand for me and it doesn't work anymore and I need a new one. How do we go about fixing that if, say, the chapter is no longer functional? Or like no one from that chapter is active with e-NABLE any longer? What do we do? We've got to have some way to look at their notes, look at the files that were used, look at the customizations and designs that were employed, so that we can have a better starting point to assist that person. And then that final thing, social media campaign. Just as Jeremy mentioned, we've got the 10-year anniversary coming up. I could really use video files and photos dropped in the social media planning section of the hub, which is another area that I just created this week. So I'm trying to familiarize myself with TikTok and video editing tools therein. But if you have a lot of experience, even just consuming TikTok, you're already ahead of the curve, and the sample group of me and you. So feel free to reach out to me and let me know if that's something you'd like to help with. If you have an interest in creating videos, or if you have some insight about what's effective in TikTok, that's an area where we're trying to, or at least I'm trying to, devote a little bit of time and energy to try to increase e-NABLE's visibility more broadly. So that's it for me. I know that we don't have any other folks on the line, but I'm very excited to be part of e-NABLE and being in a position to sort of lend this hodgepodge of experience that I bring to the table in some kind of effective way. Feel free to contact me via email. I've listed there. I'm on LinkedIn. If that's something that you do, that's great. Otherwise, just head over to the hub, and you can communicate with me there.
Very nice. Thank you, Adam.
Yeah.
If you have any interest, by the way, Adam, I can easily add you into we have an enable.org domain. I could add an email account for you there if you'd like an adam@enable.org email.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that sounds great.
If that helps. People can email your current address for now, but I can set that up for you easily just because you've been so active. It might help you to be able to segment your e-NABLE related emails. It's up to you.
Okay. Yeah, that's wonderful. Great idea.
And I just want to reiterate what you said at the end there about the call for people to share, excuse me, videos and photos. I think I'll post something in the hub too, just to reiterate your request. Excuse me, because we have so much of that in the community. We have so many great videos and great photos, but we haven't done a great job of collecting them. So now that you have set up a dedicated space for that, thank you very much. As Adam mentioned, that space is e-NABLE social media planning. Just jump in there and make sure that any photos and videos you share have a signed release to go with them. Make sure that the parties have agreed to have those shared, but then please do share those photos and videos in that space, and that'll give us what we need to then put together a great, highlights reel that can, I think, really help with fundraising.
Yeah, and I've also included links to those release forms in that space, so you should be able to hop straight over to them.
Very good.
If you don't have one already.
All right. Well, I thank you for the info and presentation, Adam. We will go ahead and bring this to an end, and I'll have a recording of this. I already posted the link to the recording for those that weren't able to join today. I do think there'll be value in this. So thanks for sharing that, and we'll come back next month.
Yeah, well, thank you for walking through the primer at the beginning too. I appreciate you weren't planning to do that, so appreciate your help.
All right. Thanks, everyone. And